What's up, guys? You're listening to another episode of Selling on Amazon with Andy Isom. Got another podcast guest for you guys today, Tristen Prosser. Thank you so much, Tristen, for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andy.
I feel like, Tristen, we've been messaging on Instagram and through email. I feel like it's been for a while now that we've had, back and forth conversations about little things and whatnot. But let's start off, if you don't mind, talking just kind of, let's go way back to like the origin story for you as far as, discovering maybe Amazon FBA, this business model, and why did you decide to get into this?
Yeah, man. So I was into Amazon, like arbitrage, retail arbitrage. And I kind of started in that and didn't really like it. There was a big time suck in that. And, I have a full-time job and stuff. So I wasn't really able to fulfill that and scale that how I wanted to. And then I just kind of stumbled upon your podcast at work and started listening to that and thought that was a good idea for me to get into it. I had already started a business like 6 years ago that kind of came crashing down just because of capital and stuff. I was in college, so didn't really have a lot to invest in it. And now that I do, I wanted to give it a shot.
Do you feel like your previous experience with, what you did back in college, even like I know you said you had a business came crashing down, that just previous business experience, also your experience with arbitrage, do you feel like that helped you in any way, like as you've started this Amazon journey?
Yeah, I was running the Facebook, Instagram ads for my Shopify store back in 2017. So that definitely helped a lot. Amazon PPC is a lot different than that, but also very similar too. So that definitely gave me a leg up in that category. And what really helped was I already knew what I wanted to sell. I already knew what industry I wanted to be in. I didn't know the exact product that I wanted to sell, but I kind of just, went off of that business and kind of started from where I left off there.
I think we have a similar backstory. It sounds like, I know you mentioned you were running Facebook, Instagram ads for Shopify in 2017. I was actually, I'm trying to think now. I think I was actually doing the same thing almost at the exact same time. So it was roughly 2016, 2017 that I had a drop shipping site on Shopify and I was selling fishing stuff. I loved fishing. I still love fishing. Before I had kids, I fished a lot more, but I love fishing and drop shipping was a thing, right? And I was similar situation. I was in college, had very little money, but I really had this entrepreneurial itch. And so I wanted to start a business. And so I was thinking, okay, what's a business I can start that requires like very, very minimal capital, right? To start. And it was just like drop shipping, you don't have to pay any money for inventory. And like, that was the whole craze. And like you, or at least it sounds like, right? That business didn't survive very long. I mean, I got sales and I was like growing, I guess the business I could say, but I realized all the issues with drop shipping, like all the challenges with drop shipping, the profit margins being like the biggest challenge. Like it was very hard, especially with social media advertising, even back in 2017 when it was a lot easier. I was like, the profits were so small. And yeah, I realized, oh crap, if I really want to turn this into an actual income, I'm going to be spending a ton of money on Facebook and Instagram ads, and I'm going to have to take a huge risk. And at the time for me, really not having the money to take that risk, having no job, I was like, I think it's time to move on. So I actually sold that drop shipping store. I've talked about this on the podcast. I made a really, really small attempt at Amazon FBA, but same sort of thing. I just realized I didn't have the capital at that time. Let me put it on the shelf. And then, like you said, I think it helped me too. It helped us when we got back to actually starting our brand up in 2019. A few years later, I was like, okay, I graduated from school, I had a full-time job, had some money that we could put towards it. And that previous experience, I think, kind of helped me and helped us, right? Helped me, my wife, our business partners, kind of helped push our business forward a little bit better. You also mentioned, Tristen, that you already knew kind of the category or industry that you wanted to get into. For people listening, right, for podcast listeners who are still unsure, I don't know what I want to sell, I'm still doing product research. That's the biggest roadblock for most people is, I want to do this, but I have no idea what to sell. What advice would you give to those people as far as choosing a category or a niche or market that you're interested in some way?
Yeah, I would just stick to your hobbies. Something that you love to do is going to be a lot easier to sell something in than something that you have no idea. You talk about like wigs on one of your podcast episodes. Like I would never sell that because I have no idea. I don't know anything about that. But, for me, it was golf. I've always been into golf, played golf in college. And so, I'm around that all the time and I know a lot about that. I know the customer because I am the customer. I can get out there and take photos of my products and post it on Instagram. And, it doesn't have to be a chore, really. It's what I do anyways. And now I'm just adding a brand and a product to it. So.
And that's something that I noticed with everyone that I've encountered, talked to, because I've coached and mentored lots of people, but I also just interact with a lot of people and I get feedback from them on how their business is going, what they're selling, their brands. And still to this day, it's really interesting to me that most of the successful brands, and when I say successful, guys, I'm not saying you making $1 million or, earning some six-figure salary means success. Success to me is you're making progress, like you're growing, you're getting sales, you're getting more sales, 1 month than you did the previous month, right? You're just making progress. That to me is successful. You're going forwards. The successful brands that I talk to, I would say a far majority, if I had to throw a number, 90% of them are built around a hobby or passion or interest. And it makes total sense to me because the beginning part of this business, Tristen, you know this, like it's a grind. Like it's tough. You're not going to see a lot of results. You're not going to see a lot of profit. And if you're not actually interested in it, or it's not a hobby for you or whatever, it's going to be really, really hard to stay motivated. How do you think that your experience and your love of, golf, I know you said you played golf in college. How do you think that has helped you just stay motivated to work on your business?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think it's just the design aspect of it. I see golf all the time, and I see what, the pros are wearing and influencers on Instagram and everything. And so I kind of know the style and I can kind of keep up with that. And I think it's just that knowledge behind it that allows me to put that design aspect into it and make a good product, something that's not out there already. And
give us a time frame if you can. I know a lot of people who listen wonder, how long does this take to start? Like how soon can I get my product launched? For you, how long was that time frame of the startup process from like when you said, okay, I'm going to do this whole build my own brand private label thing to, okay, I've got a product launched?
Yeah. So that's interesting for me. When I started listening to your podcast, it was, I believe, March of last year, 2022. And, I just said, hey, I'm going for this. I'm going to do it. And in one of your podcast episodes, it was one of your first ones that you said, keep it simple and lightweight and everything so things don't get broken. And for me, that was golf towels. And what was actually funny is you just did a podcast on golf towels. But yeah, so I started off in that. I didn't have, the $5,000 to $10,000 budget at the time. I was just like, whatever, I'm just going to go for it and go through the motions and kind of at least get a baseline here. Anyway, so yeah, I launched the golf towel, or at least I ordered it from my manufacturer, and it showed up and it was terrible. Like it was really bad quality, nothing like I expected. And I was just kind of discouraged after that, and not having the money at the time either. It was like, well, I'm just going to, like you said, kind of put it on the shelf here and maybe we'll start this up later. And so, yeah, that was 2022. And then when I really started and picked it back up again is I kind of saved up money, $5,000 to $10,000. So I felt confident, started a business account, felt confident that I could, spend this money and it wasn't just going to be nothing, and I believe that was October of 2022. So a year ago. And I started selling my first towel December 31st was when I finally got it launched and into Amazon. So, a few months, I guess, is how long it took me to do all the administrative stuff and get it all set up and then get my product here and get it off to Amazon. So yeah, I mean, a few months, but really it was 9 months with a little gap in the middle there.
I've seen other people in a similar situation where they start their Amazon brand, they order their first product, and it doesn't quite go as well as they expected for, a variety of reasons. Like maybe they didn't advertise, they didn't run their Amazon PPC. And so things just kind of fizzled, or yeah, the quality wasn't up to par for what they expected. And so then, sales kind of struggled for them, or they started to get some bad reviews, which kind of, really, really stunted their growth. And unfortunately, a lot of people who fall into that situation, that's the end of the road for them. Like after that, they're just like, well, I tried, and they're done and they move on. But for you, why did you decide after that first, I'm going to call it a learning experience because I don't like to say failure. If you learn from it, to me, it's not a failure. But from that first learning experience for you, why did you decide to give it another shot?
I still had confidence in the product. I still had confidence that I could sell it. It's just that particular manufacturer wasn't for me. They didn't do as good of a job as I would have liked. And maybe that was my fault too. Just maybe not putting enough effort into it in the beginning. But I really went for it the second time and went all in. I mean, my packaging is like next level. I spent a lot of time on that and the design and what I thought was going to work. And so I was still confident in it, just going with a different manufacturer. So yeah, I mean, that's what kind of kept me going, and especially with the money in the bank account to really say, okay, this is for this business. And before it was just kind of, oh, I got, $1,000 here maybe, or whatever. Like this is not enough.
I actually just went to lunch yesterday with a good friend of mine from high school. And I said the same thing to him. He's, thinking about getting his brand launched and started. And I told him, I said, because he was talking about, he's like, man, the big hiccup for me is capital and risk. Like, just really feeling comfortable spending that money, taking that risk to get my business going. Because I understand like $5,000 to $10,000, that's a lot of money. And the fear of losing that stings. Like that stings people. And I told him, I was like, look, dude, you have to go get a separate bank account, save up, your money, your budget, $5,000 to $10,000, the more the merrier, obviously, and just transfer that to that account. You have to completely separate your business funds from your personal life funds. Because if you're looking at your like personal checking account, you're like, I spent a couple $100 on groceries. I went out to eat. I spent $100 on a sample. It's all mingled together. And you're making all those micro comparisons like, I went golfing, $100. I ordered a sample, $100. Like, dang, I could have went golfing again. And you're just, it's really hard to take risks when all your money is in the same pool as like your personal life. So that's the best thing that I ever did back in 2017 was business bank account, separate the funds. And it's funny, you kind of almost start to use that money like monopoly money in a way. That's the way that I look at it, at least, is like, it's almost like you're playing a game. Your business is like playing a game and you spend money to execute this next level or, get this new high score or whatever it is, right? But that's like, I don't know. I don't even really play those types of video games. So it's like those video games where you gather loot or collect money and then you buy resources and stuff like in the game. I don't know, maybe like old school. I used to play the Game Boy when I was a kid and I'd play Zelda and you collect money or whatever and buy stuff. So yes, I love that advice of really saving up your money, getting your budget in check. That way you really can give it a good go. How have the results compared for you? Because this is interesting too, is you launch with a product, realize, hey, this isn't really cutting it, kind of put it on the back burner, saved up, got everything in order, and then launched the same product again. What were those results like for you on that first product compared to the second launch?
Yeah, so that first product, I mean, it was the same product, but it was a different design, and the second one was a lot better quality. But I almost actually got to that stage that you were talking about, where I launched, and it's like, okay, I'm running PPC ads and not really getting a lot of sales, and I wasn't really sure why. And one day I was on the golf course with one of my buddies, and I was showing him my towel and my product and everything, and he goes, so what's gonna separate you from all the other golf towels out there that are cheaper or whatever? And he's like, is it just design? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, pretty much. And that kind of struck a chord with me because it was like, I mean, this it is design, so it's like that, certain people have to find this design cool. I'm sure you can attest to that because your dog bandanas and stuff. So anyways, yeah, that kind of struck a chord with me. I wasn't getting the sales that I wanted to, or at least that I thought was good enough. And then I kind of just says, screw it, I'm going to launch another product. And I had like, gosh, $1,500 left of that first $5,000 sitting there. And I was like, I'm just going to go for this. I really think this is going to sell better. Luckily it did. So
yeah. And I try to remind people of this too. Not every product is going to be a home run for you. And that goes for like variations too, like styles, like you said, designs. Like maybe one design doesn't do super hot for you. One of the funny stories, I guess, for our brand, we have tons of designs, right? Of our dog bandanas. We've got tons of designs out, tons of packs. And I normally don't dip my fingers in the design process because I'm not our target customer. I'm not a 30 to 40-year-old woman who is obsessed with her golden doodle like my wife is. That's who we sell to. So I try to stay out of like the design input as far as like, hey, this is what we're going to put on this bandana. But I learned that kind of the hard way. In the early stages of our business, I thought I knew better. I thought, oh, I'm smart. I know a lot about business. I know what the customer wants. And I had an idea for a design, a pack. And so I told our business partners and everyone on our team, I said, hey, I have this great idea for a design that we should do for a pack of bandanas. And I sold them on it. I used my persuasion skills and I really sold them on why. And just to give a little background, it was around the time that Stranger Things was super popular, the Netflix show, right? Kind of like 80s vibe and everything. So I was like, oh, everyone's super into Stranger Things. We'll do this 80s, retro style pack of bandanas and it's going to go crazy. Like I just in my head, I was like, oh, this is going to be outstanding. Of our 25, I can't even remember how many packs we have now, 25, 27 packs of dog bandanas. It is the worst selling pack of all time. And for me back then, I was like, oh, this is going to crush it. It's going to be the best design ever. And it was a complete flop. Like, I don't think we ever sold more than like 2 in one day ever. And also here's the end of the embarrassing story of this is to this day, at least, we have never discontinued. Like we've just kept selling. Every design we've come out is still for sale. We've never like discontinued a design except for this one. So I'm like, wow, like I totally flopped on that one. And I had a good conversation with Vaughn about this. Actually, that was as of recording our podcast episode, Tristen, today. The episode that came out this morning was an interview with Vaughn, another former student of mine. And on that call with him, we were saying the same thing, that like, what if that was our first SKU? Thankfully it wasn't, because if that was our first SKU and we launched with that, I'm like, oh, we're going to sell dog bananas. Here's the best idea. This is the first SKU we're going to launch. We launch it and it's complete flop. We might have said, well, dog bananas are dumb. Why are we selling these? Nobody wants to buy these on Amazon. This was a terrible product. Let's quit. Let's do something else. Thankfully for us, that wasn't the first SKU or design we launched. But you have to remember, guys, you may not get the home run. You may not get lucky, right? Or whatever you want to say on that first design, that first product even. But the people who persevere, the people who trust the process, the people who keep testing, keep trying different product, different design, those are the people who win. And I also want to make this point, Tristen. This is kind of going back to the beginning of the episode here, as far as sticking to like your passion, interest, hobby, or whatnot. You can sell in any category. Like there are, I think I can say millions. I think there's over 2 million something products on Amazon. There are millions of products on Amazon. Most of them get sales, right? A lot of, like, we're talking hundreds of thousands of products are getting sales, making money on Amazon. So people get stuck in this idea that like, oh, there's only so many products out there that can actually make money. No, there are hundreds of thousands. So you're better off finding a hobby, an interest, something you're passionate about, going in on that, and then, experimenting in that realm, experimenting different design, different product within your realm of interest, experience, expertise, whatever you want to call it. For you now, Tristen, now that, you had your first launch, didn't go as well as you hoped. You had your second launch. And even then, from, what you're saying, didn't go maybe as well as you hoped, but you stuck with it. You're like, I'm going to do another product. What's the plan? What do you see here for the future of your brand over, let's just say, the next year or two?
Yeah, I mean, I have a design that works. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but I kind of, pivoted into golf hats just because I saw a hole in the marketplace for, a specific type of hat. And, and then, combine that with the design that I put on it. It's sold really well. And I think I'm just going to stick with that and see how that goes. And it's going well. I mean, I'm up to, 3 SKUs now of that product. So hopeful for fourth quarter. And then, next year, I'm just going to continue to kind of stick with the hat game and see where that takes me. I think it should do pretty well. But yeah, and then long term, I'm just, try to branch out into other products and just kind of grow the brand from there.
If you could give advice, this is the cliche question, but I think there's a lot of value to be had here. If you could give advice to someone who's still in that starting process, whether that's, you can choose, Tristen, like whether that's trying to figure out what they want to sell, during, the design, the sourcing, all that phase, or they've launched their product. Looking back over the journey you've had over the last couple of years, what's the one thing that comes to mind first for you that you would tell to someone who's just getting started?
You just got to go for it. You just got to put in the work and do it. And, maybe you won't get the results that you want, but, you just got to get over those hurdles and keep going for it. The biggest limiting factor is capital, like we've talked about before. And, going back into the beginning of the episode where it's like, transferring that money over into that business bank account and saying, okay, this is $5,000 or whatever, $10,000. And it's like, if I lose this, it's no big deal. When you're 80 years old, you're not going to regret $10,000 of money that, didn't work. So yeah, you just got to go for it. I woke up at, 4 or 5 a.m. every day and put in, 2 or 3 hours to get this thing going. And I just kind of put my head down and went with it. So yeah, I would just say start. That's the biggest thing, and stay consistent.
It's funny. You're saying it exactly how so many others have said it. Guys, you just got to start. Like, you just got to start. You're not going to launch a perfect brand. You're not going to launch a perfect product in the same way that you're not going to step on a football field and be the best football player or the best golfer, right? But you got to start. You're never going to get better until you actually go out there, if we're golfing, and take some swings. Like, no one's going to go out there and shoot a 72 on their first round of golf. Like, you got to get out there, take some swings. You're going to chunk some balls. If you're like me, you're going to slice a lot of balls and lose a lot of balls. But the more you play, the more you practice, the more you assess, you're going to get better. Tristen, thank you so much, man, for hopping on the podcast with us today and sharing your insights with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andy.